Here to weigh in is Michael Pillsbury, Heritage Fellow, Foundation Senior Fellow there. Michael, you wrote the 100-Year Marathon. You and I have been talking about this China issue for years and years and years. Right. Is this the time to trust China?
Well, no. And what President Trump is doing, in addition to what you laid out, almost every few days in the last couple of weeks, President Trump has escalated the pressure on China. China has then escalated their pressure on us. So we're kind of going down to the wire. Next Wednesday night, our time here in Washington, will be when the meeting takes place. These things usually last 3 hours or so. But President Xi Jinping is taking a huge risk now, Laura. If he thinks he's got the code, broken the code on Mr. Trump, I agree with you. I think that's wrong. And there could be a fairly major misunderstanding here in which China ends up with 100% tariffs put on most of its products, and they slide into a really bad recession, which makes the overthrow of Xi Jinping become possible again. So this is a dangerous period where things seem to be changing day by day in terms of putting pressure on each other. But I don't think Xi Jinping is doing the right thing with Trump. He should be much more conciliatory, talk about accepting President Trump's requests on, well, he wants number one to be the drug issue. But there's about 6 or 7 major issues on the table that could be resolved in the 3 hours. Then Trump and First Lady Melania are going to Beijing in just another 3 months from now. So these talks will go on. I just hope China doesn't try to stall and it doesn't end up with Trump putting the tariffs on and finding out that they work and that China begins to make concessions then. But China could suffer a lot of pain if they don't understand Mr. Trump's seriousness, I think, Laura.
No, I think the tariffs are working really well. I mean, China never lived up to its $200 billion commitment in 2020. They're doing an investigation of that. Yeah. They only spent 58% of the investment they were pledged to spend. So that, really hurt our farmers. And now they're playing games with rare earths and magnets, and that's freaking everyone out. But doesn't that just tell us that we need to focus on our own rare earth production? We need to focus on our own, effort to be independent in all these critical sectors? I mean, we can't keep playing this game with China.
No, that's exactly right. And part of the problem, though, in fact, the major part is what Biden did not do. Biden and his USTR rep, Catherine Tai, remember they had no trade talks at all. So the Chinese began to test and then violate the agreement that Trump had made, and there was no punishment. There were no trade talks. So Mr. Trump now has to undo the damage that Joe Biden caused with his sort of passivity on China, sort of violating every part of the original agreement. And the other thing is the Biden family ties with China never got fully investigated. Remember, there are lots of stories. But there probably needs to be a more thorough investigation of the Biden family and Mr. Xi Jinping.
All right. Michael, we appreciate it. Thank you very much. We'll see how this all goes.
Michael Schellenberger is the founder of Public News. All right, Mike, what does the Democrat problem with the big, beautiful ballroom symbolize to you?
Hey, Jesse, great to be with you. I think it's really interesting. I mean, look, on the one hand, it's just obvious the Democrats will just criticize anything that Trump is doing, including building a ballroom, which really is overdue. I mean, the head of the United States doesn't really have a way to host foreign governments, as you pointed out. But I think it's really more symbolic and significant than that. This is Trump putting a really lasting mark on the presidency. Obviously, he's a builder, he's a developer, he has a big vision. But we're essentially in the Fourth American Republic. I mean, we're at the end of an 80-year period that began after World War II. And that just so happens that the 1940s was the last time the White House had a significant renovation. So I do think that there is something really I think Democrats are intuiting that there's something really symbolic about what Trump is doing. He's really the first president of a new nationalist era as we say goodbye, as we really end that post-war era of intensive globalization.
What do you mean when you say we're entering into a fourth republic?
Well, I mean, it sounds a little corny. At first, I was skeptical of this idea, but really, if you think about it, we're about to be in our 250th anniversary of the United States, or at least the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. basically have you have an 80-year cycle from America's founding to the Civil War, which was really the beginning of a new country. From that moment to World War II was about 80 years, and then from World War II to today is about 80 years. So, politics has got a cycle. It's linear and progressive in some ways, but in other ways it's cyclical. And I do think that you see these are different eras in American history. And as usual, you will see the head of state, a newly elected president, define that new era. And I think that's what Trump is doing. And I think the ballroom sort of shows that. It shows, I think, bringing some grandeur to it. Obviously, Make America Great Again is the slogan of Trump's presidency. I also just think that that's how Democrats are going to have to respond to that. They're going to have to decide whether or not they're going to be sort of a pale imitation of nationalist party, or whether they're going to go in the direction, as you saw there, of socialism. It could end up tearing the Democratic Party apart. It could mean the end of the Democrat Party, and we see something totally new because the left has just been so discredited on every single one of its major issues, from race to border crime, climate change, and transgenderism.
So as Trump kind of rewrites the rules for trade, for industrial policy, new technology, AI, immigration policy, the Democrats have a choice, you're saying. And basically, where do they stand here in the fork in the road?
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, this is the big story, and it's a huge story, really, right? Because we know who the Republican Party is. We know what its agenda is. But the Democrats, I mean, the base is still stuck with the party of 2024, the party of woke, radical progressivism, but that has alienated most of the country. So you really only have like 35% of the country that's on board with that Democrat Party agenda. That agenda alienates swing voters, as we saw in the elections. So I think it's going to be a huge civil war within the Democrat Party over where it goes. Does it become more like Gavin Newsom, or does it become more like Zoran Mamdani and AOC and Bernie Sanders? I expect some difficult, dark times ahead for the Democrats. You've got a party in power that really knows what it is. It knows its vision and values. The American people know what it is. The Democrats are just sort of stuck constantly responding to everything that Trump does in a reactionary way because there's no inner core. There's no deep sense of self. There's no true north. There's no moral compass. And someone's going to have to provide that for the Democrats, or I think it could be the end of the party.
Right. And now they're saying Trump's going to use the military to kill Americans. Listen.
The American president has said, I can point the U.S. military any place I want and kill anyone I want. That eventually is going to become a principle in the domestic use of the military.
Yes.
He is acclimating people to the notion that the military is his private army.
All right, so that's on MSNBC. I mean, these people are going crazy. They're going crazy on live television, and no one over on that channel is telling them to knock it off.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's, people may forget that Barack Obama ran a drone kill program to basically assassinate al-Qaeda leaders, and I didn't hear Democrats complaining about that. I think this is another area where, I mean, look, Trump is in line to get the Nobel Peace Prize next year for successful peace negotiations between the Israelis and the Palestinians. You see him working on the Ukraine thing. It's going to be a lot harder. But this is a president that clearly wants to get out of the forever wars. He's going to use American force, but one gets the sense that it's going to be limited. It's not going to be these long-term engagements. President controls the military. I mean, that's just something that's always been there. Obviously, for a big war, you need to get consent of Congress. But so far, that's not what's happening here with the president. And I just think, again, it's just you just can expect anything that Trump is in favor of for the Democrats to suddenly oppose. When Trump embraced tariffs, which were a Democrat policy for 80 years, Democrats suddenly flipped on that. They have no core underlying vision or principle. They're really a lost party. I think, again, I just think they're in the midst of an existential crisis that it's going to really take a new candidate to get out of, and that candidate is probably going to fail before this party can really figure out who it is and what it wants. Yeah,
they're lost at sea, and they could either have a captain that gets them back to shore, or they could shipwreck and sink to the bottom of the ocean, and we might get a new fangled party one of these days. Excellent analysis, Mike Schellenberger. Thank you so much.